To some security situation, but this time in Borno State. We're joined now by bwala, who is the Commissioner of Home Affairs, Information and Culture in Borno State. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Well, it's interesting. Some of the headlines make their rounds. At the time, they did say that there were those who were leaving the state in droves. And, well, you also served as a senior special assistant to in media to former governor of the state at the time, Mala Kachara. But tell us about what's going on there now.
It's unfortunate that Borno, claimed to be the home of peace, found herself in this situation. We are saddened by the fact that some section of our citizenry is aggrieved by certain policies. We are also worried that they have taken up arms against their kinsmen.
What kind of policies are those?
Well, there was this security situation to the effect that there was a confrontation between soldiers and some sections of the society. And that one aggrieved, they felt aggrieved and maybe in sort of vendetta.
Yeah, but before, okay.
Exactly, yeah, because just I think we're thinking along the same line. Something warranted the incursion, or sorry, the invitation of the soldiers to Borno in the very first instance. And I'm sure that that sect had felt aggrieved before the soldiers were called in.
Yeah, like I said, there was this introduction of the joint military operations, and which tended to stop the or to introduce use of helmets, crash helmets, in the capital city. Certain sections of the society felt that the use of that crash helmet was inconsistent with their mode of operations, and so they tried to resist, as a result of which there was a little misunderstanding between the policemen as at that time and those people.
When was this?
That was in 2009. It now degenerated into a confrontation, and subsequently they felt they were not happy with that.
Mr. Bwala, what my colleague is saying, for instance, the lady that was alleged to have been harassed or by soldiers in Biu, for instance, something led to the soldiers coming into Borno in the first place. And you know, my colleague Chamberlain did ask that once upon a time we read in the papers that people were leaving Borno in droves. So maybe you tell us what exactly the situation is, what led to all of that, and if the situation has normalized, have they started returning?
Yeah, you see, at the onset there were these targeted killings of certain individuals. There were incidents of bombings in some parts of the city, and naturally when this type of thing happened, it sends panic across, and so people at the time felt unsafe to be in the city since they do not know specifically who or where is their next target. And so because of that panic, people started leaving, not in drones as you were saying, but some people started leaving the city feeling unsafe.
Yeah,
but now the situation is getting back to normal.
Well, sorry, and not to take away from that, but we also had a situation whereby people not only left, but some state governors sent vehicles to pick up their citizens from Borno State.
That is why I said there has been widespread misinformation about the situation in Borno State.
Okay, that's where you come in now.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, for those who may be watching for maybe the first time, really, because you are in information, and so you should be on top of all of this to give us a background. Who are Boko Haram? What do they want? How do we go about solving the problem? So they need to understand. Nigerians want to know, what is the main problem here?
Yeah, and that is why you cannot start until you try to identify who are those spreading information about Boko Haram. A lot of people talk about Boko Haram without knowing actually what was happening. A lot of people talk about Borno State without even having visited Borno State. You know, so people sent out misinformation about the whole situation. But like I told you, Boko Haram is a religious sect. It is not actually their name. Their name is Jamaat al-Dawati wal Jihad. So they had their own philosophy, they had their own mode of operations.
Could you give us an interpretation to that? What does it mean?
I do not know, but I know that jihad means fighting against an unjust society.
Jama'atu Dawatu.
Jama'atu Dawati wal Jihad.
So if we break it down, Jama'atu is a congregation, the Dawa is the works like propagating something, and the jihad there could also mean striving for the cause of something.
You even know better than I do.
No, we're trying to break it down
so that people can understand.
so that people can understand. You
Yeah,
understand? Because
it's an Arabic.
I'm so happy that you're here because so that people can understand what exactly is happening in Borno State. We haven't seen you lately in this part talking about this, so that is why we just want to see how much of understanding people can get. So, what is their grouse? This Jama'atu Dawatul Jihad. What is the talk about them and the government?
From the onset, their initial philosophy is a society based on the philosophies of Islam, pure Islamic or Sharia state. That was their initial preaching. That was the initial gospel they were trying to spread around. Now, along the line, there were misinterpretations to actually what they were demanding for. And there were also some misunderstandings from some quarters of what actually they were demanding for. Along the line, also some factors crept in, and so the entire process was distorted.
What were the misunderstanding or misinterpretation?
Like I told you, we have suspected, and we are being proven right to the effect that there have been some political undertones to the effect, because it came at a time when we were going into political activities. If it had been on even before we started politics, one can understand that, okay, we are still on to these people's original demands, and then we look for ways of redressing them.
So to some extent, you think this is political?
To some extent, we think there are political undertones, because if you look at it, the individuals that were targeted, majority of the people that were targeted were members of the ANPP. To this date, there is no single member of the PDP that has been a target of this group, which tells you that some people are using the name of Boko Haram to perpetrate crime.
Has your government spoken with any of them, either this time, or you're aware if previous governments have spoken with any of them?
One of the very first agenda of His Excellency the Governor, one of the Kashif Shetima, is to try to reach out to these people so that we can dialogue.
Dialogue?
Yes. We have offered to dialogue with them. Let us know what are their grievances. So that
was when they turned down the amnesty he offered them, because immediately he came into office and used the word amnesty, and they turned it down.
Part of this dialogue has to, that is, if we discuss with them, we will know whether we could offer amnesty to them.